Well, welcome. This is focusing on the fundamentals of recruitment with a focus on fun. I'm Travis Smith. I'm the director of growth for Psi Upsilon fraternity, and I've been on the team for just about 3 years now. I spent about 16 years in higher education, working with fraternity and sorority life as the director of student activities and Greek life on a variety of different campuses. Um, and I'm here to kind of run through a plan on how you can improve your chapter's recruitment. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. If you do have any questions, you're welcome to throw them in the chat, and I will try and get to them at the end. I may not be able to keep up with them as they go, um, but then we will certainly close the loop at the end of the session. So the first question I have is just, is recruitment fun for your chapter? So I'd love to get some feedback. Regardless, I see you're in the chat. Would you mind giving me a little bit of impression? Like, does your chapter think recruitment is fun? Do you think recruitment is fun? And if so, why or why not?
Honestly, I think recruitment's pretty fun. It's like the first month of the semester, and we don't really have like too much like heavy load from our classes, so we already are like pretty relaxed. And then it just adds a bunch of events for us as well as meeting new people. So it's a good time. The first month's usually pretty nice. Obviously, as the semester goes on, not as fun, but recruitment's definitely our peak good times.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. I know, when you get a variety of people, oftentimes the answer is not as simple as that. A lot of people do oftentimes see recruitment as just the work that has to go into running a fraternity. And one of the things I'm here to do is to challenge that a little bit. If you can't have fun with being in a fraternity, if you can't have fun in getting to know other people and making friends, then you're probably doing recruitment wrong. That's at least my theory. And so, what my thesis is that we really need to do a good job of understanding what our members like doing and why, and how do we tailor our recruitment around that so that everybody shows up, everybody has a good time while they're there. The better time they're having, the more people want to be around them, and that makes people want to join the chapter. And so, if your chapter is doing events that nobody thinks is fun or people don't want to show up to, it's time to reevaluate your plans and try and think a little bit differently about recruitment events and figure out ways that you can make a better impression on the people that you're trying to attract to your organization by people genuinely having fun there, not just putting on a smile. And so, with that being said, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on that in the following slides. Um, so, one, I'm not going to necessarily go all into having fun. I think every chapter has a different way of doing that. We have to laugh at ourselves sometimes. We gotta figure out, like I said, what our members like to do. But more than that, I really wanted this session to go into some tactics that everybody could take away to not only approach recruitment differently, but also really focus on what matters in recruitment and doing the things that drive results. So we are going to get into some of those in the next couple of slides. I did kind of theme this around the idea of fun. And so certainly want you to keep that in your kind of thought process as you're talking about these different fundamentals of recruitment is how do we continue to make those fun in the way that we do them in our chapters. Um, and so obviously not any recruitment program can be a one size fits all approach for every chapter, for every member in your chapter to really connect to, but we want to do some broad reaching things that will enable them to um, connect with that and to represent your organization positively and ultimately to help you grow. And so the first, just kind of broke it down into the FUN. So I think some of the things that I picked out um, that I think are really important and with Psi Upsilon, the focus on friendship is always at the forefront as one of the core values of the organization. But that's what recruitment is all about at the end of the day. You're all trying to make more friends. You're trying to get more people engaging with you and connecting on a deeper level. And I would say even goes past friendship into family. And so, how do you go about making friends? You don't put on a show and do things that aren't authentic to you. You do things that are authentic to you that other people enjoy doing too. And you find a way to connect over a common purpose or a common goal or a common activity. Um, and we want to make sure that you are connecting with other people that share your values, that share your outlook, that share the types of attitudes that you want to portray or you want to bring into your organization. You know, we believe in the fired up recruitment practices, and one of the things that they have posited for 25 plus years is people join people. They don't join events. They don't join organizations, they join other people. And so if we start with a focus on friendship, we're going to be able to really drive forward great recruitment results. You're going to get the guys that you want to be around all the time, and that's going to really add value to your experience. With the second thought, face to face. With the pandemic, I think we had a lot of pivoting because we couldn't do face to face. And for about 2 years, we really were struggling with how to recruit people. And we figured out a way to do it. But during that time, a lot of that face to face skill building and relationship building was lost. And the institutional knowledge of a chapter is only 3 or 4 years. And so we really have to work to get ourselves back to a place that allows face to face communication, face to face interaction. Best recruitment efforts are always going to be people meeting other people, hanging out in person. Certainly, there's a role for social media, there's a role for texting, there's a role for phone calls and emails, probably less so. But that face to face communication is something you cannot replace. And it is something that, in order to develop deep relationships, friendships, and family, you really need to invest in. And I think that's a piece that, as you're thinking about your recruitment events, how are you incorporating those opportunities for face-to-face communication and relationship building? The third tenet here is really just forgetting about everything that doesn't matter. Get rid of the noise. Anything that doesn't help you get to know people, it should not be your primary focus. I know that rush shirts are really attractive and fun, and that's great. And I'm not saying don't do those things, but if you're spending more time trying to figure out what your rush shirt theme is going to be or your design, then you're probably focusing on the wrong thing. And I think it's important that you have that identity on campus. So definitely see value in that. But we really want to talk about what are the things that are going to make you get to know other people in a way that allows you to evaluate them as a good candidate for your chapter. Um, you know, that face-to-face communication, that those opportunities for communication with them to get to know who they are, what they're all about, what they bring to the organization if they were to join, and really kind of going back to the tenets of like getting your goal is just to get to know them. I don't think you really need to sell the fraternity right away. We'll get into a little bit more of that later, but um, the focus here has got to be on getting to know your potential new members. And then the fourth F is one that maybe you wouldn't think about, but failure is going to happen. You're going to struggle. People are going to do things that aren't going to work. Your recruitment theme or your event that you put to get so much time into may flop. People may not show up, for a variety of reasons. Things may just happen that do not go to according to plan. And that's okay. The best chapters, the ones who recruit successfully and that have a attitude of pervasiveness, are the ones that do the best in recruitment. And so it's okay to have failures. It's what you do afterwards that makes a difference. And so we really want you to embrace failure when it does happen. We want you to challenge yourself to look introspectively and say, hey, what happened? But not dwell on it. You don't have time to live in the past. You don't have time to face those things and say, I'm going to let that get me down. What we need to do is take the opportunity, learn from it, and move forward and really make sure that you're continuing in a path that's growth oriented. Moving into the U, one of the things I really want to encourage chapters to do is just to either upend or upgrade your recruitment events. You may have been doing the same event for 10 years and it may be just fine. If that's the case, put a little more effort into it. Do a little something else to make it exciting or fun. Grow it, make it better. That's what we see so many times in philanthropy events that have gone on to be, raising tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. They didn't start that way. They continually upgraded over time. So much of our recruitment efforts, I think we just recycle. We do the same thing over and over again because it worked one time, and it does. It works. It's okay. It's fine. But we don't necessarily put any more effort into it. And I really want to encourage you all to take the opportunity to look at how you can continue to improve those things, make them more attractive, get more people to show up, um, make better connections when they do show up. Those are great ways to really enhance your recruitment through things that you're already doing that don't take a lot of effort, but just allow you to kind of keep looking at it. The other thing is upend, do something different. If your events aren't working, if your strategies aren't working, they're not worth the investment, scrap it, start again. Reach out to me at the headquarters, reach out to your fellow chapters, across the country and say, hey, what are you doing? We hold roundtables from time to time. Every month there's an Archons roundtable. Encourage your Archon to bring that to the meeting and say, we were really struggling with this. Are there any things that your chapters are doing that are really working? Take the opportunity to challenge everything that you're doing that's just not optimal and say, you know what, we're not stuck in that. We don't have to do that over and over and get the same result. We can change it. We can do better. I talked about this a little bit earlier too. I think unite is really important. If we look at how your chapter members approach a recruitment event and what kind of attitudes they come up in with, it's going to be related to whether or not they think they're going to have a good time. There's a lot of guys in our chapters that don't really want to talk to people. I think, we always think about like those seniors, like I have nothing in common with a freshman. So, I don't feel like I'm going to be a good recruiter. Well, it doesn't really matter if they have anything in common with a freshman, if they can come and have a good time and just chat with somebody as another human being. It doesn't have to be on the basis of their academic coursework, their age, any of that. Like people are people, they have interests, they have histories, they have backgrounds, but if you can create a way that your members can truly enjoy coming to those events, your events are going to be a lot more successful. You're not going to be fighting with people to show up. You're not going to be having the same five guys at every recruitment event and the other guys that are just not showing up and doing anything. So, really try and find ways to engage your members and get them to do things that they will have fun with, they will enjoy doing. And you're never necessarily going to find something that's going to connect with everybody, but that's the great way you can kind of use this to connect with different pockets of your chapter. If you have a big chapter in particular, you can do four or five different types of things and hit different niches within your organization to help them find guys they're going to connect with. You might have a group that they love to, play video games. Another group might be really into, athletics and sports. And that's okay. Those can be two different recruitment events, and not everybody has to show up to everything when that's the case. And so it's a really great way to diversify your recruitment as well. Um, the next one's uplift. I think doing something inspiring to others on campus is a really great way to get people to take attention and take a moment and look at who Psi Upsilon is. Um, do you do a recruitment event that has to do with service? Do you have any sort of fundraising efforts? Do you do things that better the community around you, that make you stand out as leaders on your campus? If you don't, this is a great opportunity to build that into your recruitment plan. Those of you who are recruitment chairs, those of you who are on a recruitment team, bring this up. Say, hey, how do we really do something that increases our reputation in a positive way on campus, not just with the administration, but with other students, that will make them look at us as leaders, as upstanding individuals that they want to be when they came to college. They were looking to be more like us. Those are great ways to attract the right type of of potential new members to your group. And the last one is understand. I think doing your research can be really helpful as you're approaching recruitment. Many of you are coming in with a perception of what these recent, high school graduates are coming in with, what their experience was through COVID or different, cultural trends or pop culture things that are happening. But if you look at the research, you're going to get some basic information that stands out that tells you a little bit about how to connect better with others. I've got an extra slide in the end of the presentation as a bonus that is really about how to get people to like you. If you do some research, if you look around, you can find some really quick tips and tricks and tools that can really help your chapter make better connections with other people, make other people enjoy connecting with you more. And so I really encourage you to try and understand. Um, Understand also has a great context when it comes to talking to other people. If you listen to understand people and to not to respond, but to just try and get to know them, that will help them want to connect with you more. It goes into kind of some of those concepts I'm going to talk about later. But if you really try and understand who somebody is, and you really try and get to know who they are, you can both evaluate whether they're going to be a good fit for the chapter, but it also will help them trust and get to know you and want to be part of um, who you are and who your organization is. And then the last letter N, I think, we going back to some of those fired up principles. I think numbers matter. We can't go in with a list of 5 guys that we're recruiting and expect to get 5 guys every time. Quantity drives quality, as they say. So the more people we have to recruit, the more selective we can possibly be. The more um, we can evaluate people, the more we can be okay when somebody does say no. Because we have more people in the pool. At the end of the day, if you have, like I said, a small group of people coming in and you get a couple of no's, it's really devastating. But if you have 100 guys on your list and you get a couple of no's, that's not that big of a deal. So I think the biggest thing we can do, and it kind of goes into some of the next steps, that networking piece in particular, is identify your pool. Make sure that you have a widespread net of the people you know on campus. Because again, people join people. The people you already know are more likely to join than some stranger on the street until you build a relationship with them. And so do some name joggers and think about the guys that are in your classes, the people that you enjoy hanging out with that aren't in the fraternity, that are in other clubs with you, that are, leaders on campus that you respect. Put them on your list and start having conversations with them. It's not about inviting them to a party. It's not about inviting them to a recruitment event. It's just about going to coffee. It's about sitting down over a meal and having a good conversation. Those are the types of things that really build a relationship. And once they are in a relationship and in a trusting space with you, then you can introduce them to your friends, and then you can introduce them to your fraternity later on. After they know 2 or 3 or 4 guys in the fraternity, it will make it a lot easier for them to feel comfortable and to say yes if you do invite them to join. Um, Networking kind of touched a little bit on, but it's really important to use your connections to make more connections. It's a life skill that will always serve you well. Some of the most successful people I know are masters at networking, and that's how they got to where they are. So this is a great way for you to practice this in college in a way that will help you drive your recruitment results, but also build some tools that you can put in your belt to be a more successful person when you graduate. A lot of people get jobs because they made a connection at a company. They have a good mentor. This is kind of one of the great things about fraternity is a built-in network of mentors and guides and people who've gone before you who want to see you successful. Um, you can both use your alumni to try and get more connections. They may know people that are attending school and can, um, whether it's their kids or their neighbors' kids or things like that. Your connections on campus, what organizations you're a part of, other things like that can really be a great excuse me, tool to help you get those numbers. I think non-negotiables is the next one I wanted to talk about. And I think this comes back to that idea of values-based recruitment. We want you to think about what makes a good quality individual in your organization. You don't invite somebody to join a lifetime organization unless you know a little bit about them. And so what are the things you need to know to make a good decision in that space? Every chapter can answer that differently. I'm not going to put anybody on the spot to answer that right now, but I think the way you approach that can really be impactful in making sure you get the right people in the door and that you retain them and keep them in the organization. And then the last of the acronyms that I'll go through before I kind of get into a little bit of bonus fun is never stop. I think, recruitment is not a 1 week thing. It is a continual process, just like making friends. You're going to continue to make friends over the course of your life. It doesn't just fit into you know, a simple box of 1 week once you leave college either. So don't make recruitment that way. There's nothing that universities or anybody is going to stand in your way of doing to make a friend. You may not be able to invite them to join your organization at certain times of the year, but this is a process that the more you get to know, the more you get comfortable with, the more friends you make, the more people are going to be likely to join your organization. So we want that to be an enriching thing. We want that to be something that will continue to not only make your chapter better, but also make your life better. And so really encourage you to continue to press forward as you think about recruitment and not let it stop at the end of a week. For those of you who are recruitment chairs, that may mean you're continually searching for more quality leads, and maybe you don't start inviting them to events and asking them to join right away, but you start identifying who those people are and start making individual relationships with them. So that when the next semester rolls around and your events start, you have a whole solid list of potential members that are likely to come to your events and participate. So this little bit of bonus content actually comes from an FBI human behavior specialist. And I really liked it, so I wanted to throw it in here. I think, as we talk about recruitment, part of what recruitment success comes down to is, do people like you? Do they want to hang out with you, right? On an individual level, not even at a chapter level. So how do you enter a space, enter a conversation, enter an approach with other people that is going to make them more likely to like you? And I think the kind of core tenets of this is non-judgmental validation and seeking thoughts and opinions of other people without judging them, without responding or like I said, listening to understand and not necessarily to respond. Um, that can be a really, really powerful tool in getting people to trust and to like you and to want to continue to talk to you. The other thought, and we kind of talked about this a little bit ago too, is suspend your ego. This is not about you. Recruitment often is not about selling the organization. It's about focusing on the other person and seeing, who they are and if it's a good fit for your organization before you even consider inviting them to join. So make the focus about them. Ask lots of questions. If you need help with that, I think open-ended questions are obviously much better than the yes or no questions. Um, there are a lot of guides out there on how to ask, open-ended questions or interesting questions to help you get to know people. And I'm happy to help you find those if you can't find them on your own. Um, but really a great way for you to kind of coordinate your efforts, both as an individual and as a chapter, around creating the focus on the potential member. They're really listening and don't just wait to talk. Asking them questions kind of goes right along with that. You don't have to try and impress people. You don't have to come up with one-up stories. That just makes them feel smaller. If you let them be the star of the show, it really makes them feel special, makes them feel good. The other thing, it's not in this list, I think is really important is listen to remember. If you can remember something about somebody the next time they come to an event, they feel seen, they feel heard, and that makes a huge difference. I know even from personal experience, I went through that when I was in college. I didn't know a single person, and I went to a couple of fraternity recruitment events, and the difference between the chapter I joined and every other chapter is the one that I joined seemed to care about me enough to remember who I was, where I was from, what I liked doing. The other chapters, consistently re-asked, "What's my name? What's my major? Where was I from?" Um, and it really told me that they didn't really care about me very much. They didn't seem to want to make that connection. It was just kind of that um, standard process that they went through for recruitment. So, um, if you can do some of these things, it will really impact the way that people connect with you in a way that I think will really help. Uh, to ask people about what's been challenging them, it's a great way to get them to open up and tell a story, tell a history or something that is impactful in their life. Um, it can really help you get to know them on a deeper level. And so there's, again, it's kind of similar to those open-ended questions, but digging deeper and getting to know a little bit about what matters to them, and why. And it can really be a great tool in helping build that level of trust and connection. Um, the establishing time and straight early in conversation, if you have limited time to talk, just saying that up front, um, so they don't feel cut off at the end. They don't feel like, oh, you just didn't have enough time for me. If you truly have that, address it, put it out there, because nothing is more off-putting to somebody than you cutting them off mid-sentence and saying, "I'm sorry, I don't have enough time. We need to go." They just feel very shut down by that. And then body language is really important too. I think, if you aren't looking down at somebody, that's the chin down piece, that you're not necessarily looking down over your nose, you're smiling. Blade your body means not necessarily parallel, but kind of angled. It's a lot less of an aggressive posture to take with somebody, keeping palms up instead of palms down. Um, and then just kind of open nonverbals, not having your arms crossed, but having them kind of open, really lets people kind of feel that you're really invested in the conversation. And so, paying attention to things like that can be really huge when it comes to recruitment events. If your members are bad at this, pay attention. Maybe this would be a great chance for you to kind of just pay attention the next time you're out in public, with your brothers, and see who's good at it and who's not. And those who aren't, maybe let's invest in some time in them, because it will help them. It will make them better, in the rest of their lives later on. Not even just about recruitment, but just to better themselves and better the types of connections they make and are able to make moving forward. We can train this stuff. It's not rocket science. It just takes a little bit of practice. And I think at the end of the day, that's one of the things that we traditionally have not done it well enough as fraternities, is we don't practice the things that make us successful. Um, and I think it's really good for us to have this time to just focus a little bit on these elements. Um, but I think that kind of brings me to the end of my presentation. I will kind of kick it over to the next slide, that has my contact information. So if you do have, additional follow-up that you'd like to do, I'm available for consults, for coaching, for individual questions. My cell phone is at the very bottom of that. You can call or text that, at any point to get help from me. I don't have to be your chapter coach for that to happen. But I'm here to support you, and I want your chapter to be successful with growth. I believe in Psi Upsilon. I think it's a great organization, and it has a ton of potential. And so many of our chapters have so much going for them, and such a special experience they provide to their members, that I think it should be an easy sell. But I know it's easier said than done. You're going to hit stumbling blocks, and that's why I'm here. I'm here to support you all. So if you do have questions about any of the content I went through, please feel free, if you haven't already, thrown them in the chat to do that. Um, I'm going to stop the recording so that we don't sort of record all that stuff for other people. But if you do have anything that you want to follow up with me after on, please just contact me via the email, tsmith@sciu.org, or the cell number 317-805-1056. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.